Ethereum done if we really have to call it done? Well, end of 2023, right? So merge done, withdrawals done. So being able to withdraw from the proof of stake system, basic scaling done, a lot of basic improvements done, enough cryptography added to Ethereum that we can support privacy solutions as a layer on top. And, if we need to, we can stop there, but we're not going to stop there, right? And we want to kind of like go ahead and try to actually make sure that the Ethereum ecosystem can support 500 million users before, the bull where 500 million users are knocking on the door actually, ends up happening.
That's
right?
great.
So that's, that's probably the next part of the future, the transition from Ethereum as this kind of very theoretical ecosystem that's still discovering and finding itself to Ethereum as an ecosystem that actually is, tries to be useful and usable and, secure and all of those things and like actually provide value for hundreds of millions of people. 2023 is going to be the year when, roll-ups really come to maturity. We have 4844 that gives roll-ups more space, and we have the trading wheels on roll-ups like really get weakened a lot. And like basically, we go most of the way to these, Ethereum scaling being this kind of fully trustless and so not fully trustless, but most of the way to being fully trustless. So mostly trustless system that kind of gets us to like most of what we would call sharding being finished, and then after that there's rollups going fully trustless, and then there's full dank sharding, and I think those things are going to take a couple of years longer, but like for me personally, I think after the changes in next year, like that would be the first points where I would feel comfortable saying, even if nothing else happened past that point, I would be happy with Ethereum, right? And that to me is like that's the personal milestone for me, right? Like the equivalent of when can we call Ethereum done if we really have to call it done? Well, end of 2023, right? So merge done, withdrawals done. So being able to withdraw from the proof of stake system, basic scaling done, a lot of basic improvements done, enough cryptography added to Ethereum that we can support privacy solutions as a layer on top. And, if we need to, we can stop there, but we're not going to stop there, right? And we want to kind of like go ahead and try to actually make sure that the Ethereum ecosystem can support 500 million users before, the bull where 500 million users are knocking on the door actually, ends up happening.
That's
right?
great.
So that's, that's probably the next part of the future, the transition from Ethereum as this kind of very theoretical ecosystem that's still discovering and finding itself to Ethereum as an ecosystem that actually is, tries to be useful and usable and, secure and all of those things and like actually provide value for hundreds of millions of people. Around 2020. This is, I think, another one of these trivia that is well known within Ethereum circles, but probably hasn't really kind of filtered out to the wider narrative memeplex is the roll-up centric roadmap, right? This is basically this idea that instead of Ethereum itself trying to kind of boil the ocean with scaling and turn itself into this complicated hyperscalable system, we would make some changes to Ethereum that would make it be more friendly to people making layer 2 scaling solutions, right? So layer 2 scaling solutions are like protocols that try to do the same thing that Ethereum does, but that plug into Ethereum for security without doing every single thing on top of Ethereum, right? So most of the work would happen off-chain, but just enough work would or could be done on-chain that if something happens, the Ethereum system would kind of keep the rest of the system honest, right? So one of the defining analogies for layer 2s in general is like the concept
Supreme
of a court,
yeah.
right? Like the concept of exactly, the Supreme Court is what things kind of ultimately rest on, but you don't literally have the Supreme Court hearing every single case, right? You have a whole bunch of these appeals courts and like a whole bunch of lower courts, and then you just have the facts that the threat of a court case being possible can drive honest behavior without most of that behavior ever needing to get into a court system, right? That kind of analogy like drives the Lightning Network, which is basically the only kind of layer 2 that's possible on Bitcoin. And it also drives state channels, which are like the Lightning Network equivalents on Ethereum, as well as rollups, which are this more complicated thing that was only discovered later on Ethereum, that are actually powerful enough that you can do smart contracts on top of them, right? So Lightning Network and state channels support transactions, and they support very limited kinds of contracting. The rollups, they support like kind of full-on EVMs that kind of get indirectly verified inside the EVM. So layer 2s have kind of been the Ethereum scaling direction since then. And since then, there have been these discussions around data availability, right? Basically, the practical capacity limit to a layer 2 is how much data the Ethereum chain itself can store, right? Because one of the trade-offs of rollups is that they do require the Ethereum chain to store a few bytes of data for every single transaction, like a lot less than using Ethereum directly, but still some amount of data. And that's where stuff like data availability sampling and EIP 4844, which is looking scheduled to come, early to mid,
proto-dink sharding,
maybe later next year, is all about. Exactly. So proto-dink sharding is like a bit of a pun, right? Because so first there's sharding, and then there's dank sharding, which is this version of sharding, which was created by an Ethereum researcher named Dankrad. And then there is proto-dank sharding, which is called that because it's a stepping stone to full dank sharding. It doesn't technically shard data yet, though it does shard history and computation. But it was also created by another Ethereum researcher. His name is Proto-Lambda, right? So proto-dank sharding happening next year. And the other thing that, I've talked to the rollup teams and they all want to do next year is they want to start taking off training wheels, right? So the rollups and layer 2s that exist on Ethereum today, they basically all have what I call training wheels, like some kind of backdoor that lets developers come in and say stop and change the protocol if they see that some kind of bug has happened. And training wheels are obviously an affront to the moral idea of trustlessness and all of those things, and nobody wants training wheels to be the status quo long term. But basically, they're like a compromise saying, okay, people we want to hit the ground running, and we want applications to be able to start deploying on layer 2s before we can be fully confident that the thing has no bugs. And so we're going to have a backdoor for a while, and then once things are stabilized and once we're confident enough in the code, then we can finally start taking the backdoors out, right? And so next year, some of the projects are going to actually, I think, might be actually taking their backdoors out. Some of them are going to be kind of limiting their backdoors and going to a hybrid, right, where a backdoor exists, but there's it's not one person that manages it, and it's not even a multi-sig with a 51% threshold. It's like a multi-sig with an 80% threshold or a 75% threshold with members that are highly distributed between a bunch of different organizations. And so it's like a halfway house between being a kind of trusted sidechain in the style of something like Liquid, or in the style of something like Polygon today, versus being a fully decentralized system, right? Where it's the humans have half the votes and the code has half the votes. That's probably one sort of mathematically accurate way to think about it. And so if
the Senate and the House,
if you want to override the code,
right.
Exactly. If the if even a majority of the humans are dishonest, as long unless you have almost all the humans are dishonest, if it's just a majority, then the code still kind of carries the day, right? But so the idea would be that if there is some political controversy, that then you're not gonna. You could see yourself getting 51% of the humans, but you're not going to get 80% of the humans. Whereas if it's a bug, then that's something where it's easy to get a 100% even agreement that the bug needs to be fixed. Not total take the training wheels off and leave it to the code, but a very large step toward that.